Hello and welcome to today's episode of the All Sports Podcast. My name is Lachlan Turner, one of the co-hosts.
I'm another co-host, Liam McDonald.
And I am your other co-host, Sumit Kudav. Now, don't forget to subscribe to our socials as well. On Instagram, it's All Sports 2021, and on Facebook, it is All Sports Podcast.
Right, now that we've introduced ourselves and talked about the socials, I want to start off by talking about something that I have a strong opinion with. Now, I've noticed over the years that people won't give defenses like enough credit. They all, isn't there a saying, defenses always win championships?
Defense wins championships. There's also a saying that the best defense is good offense, but.
Well, I mean, I've heard that as well, but I don't know. Like, it's just, you see teams that, statistically have a really good defense, top 10, you look at how they go in the season, they'll be doing well, and it's, and if a team does win, and they've got like an average defense, that teams that will do well. I mean, all you have to do is just look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Their defense wasn't necessarily a top 10 defense when they won the Super Bowl, but they were in the middle of the road after the first, after week 7. They started, their defense started making plays when they needed to make. But I'm going to go through. At the moment, I will go through some of the top defenses in the NFL, and I'm going to read out their record just after I actually get the standings up in the NFL. I had the defensive stats up, and I didn't have the standings, the team's record. So
level of preparedness. Woo.
So the number one defense, and this is according to, this is the stats, the website called footballdb.com/stats.
And we all know numbers don't lie.
/team stat. Well, in this case, no. I mean, and you look at the performances. Yes, mind you, this team has had a couple of games where they just completely, they played against really bad teams, and this team is Buffalo. In their 7 games, they are the number one defense. They only concede 86.6 rushing yards per game. They concede, only 182.4 passing yards, and total yards, they only concede 269 yards per game, and their defense, the amount of points the defense gives up per game is 15.6. Now, their record is, they've won 5 and lost 2. Now, the second team, the second ranked defense, Carolina
before you
Panthers,
go into the second ranked defense, so what do those numbers actually mean, in context? I assume 86 is an incredibly low amount of yards to concede rushing.
Yeah, for an entire game. So each quarter, for those who don't know, each team for a half, they have 3 timeouts unless they all they use them, and coaches can challenge, but if they fail the challenge, they lose timeout. And through 15 minutes. Now, some offenses or some coaches will prefer obviously some to do some things over others, like Andy Reid, the Kansas City Chiefs head coach. He's more of a passing, he'd rather pass the ball than rush the ball. Hence why, teams, that go up against the Kansas City Chiefs might not give up as many rush yards per game. So you obviously taking that into context. And obviously, and for those who don't know what the rushing yards mean, it's pretty much if you look at an NFL, obviously you'll see the offense on one side, the defense with the other. Obviously, the team with the ball has the offense. If a ball is given to a player behind, like we'll call it the big offensive lineman. You see those big dudes at the front. If it gets passed behind them, it's effectively a rush. But obviously a pass, obviously, you throw it forward. But if the quarterback was to throw the ball behind them, it'd technically be called a rush. So that's for those who don't know, that's what it means there. Does that kind of help you understand that a little bit better there?
Oh yeah, I guess. But also so in a typical game of NFL, what would you say an average amount of rushing yards in a game would be?
Oh geez, that's really hard. Well, I'm tempted to say 80, 80 or more. It just depends on who you're. I can't say it depends on who your running back is because we don't know. The running back is just going to have a career game. Rush for 300 yards or whatnot. So you look at teams like the Tennessee Titans before the bloke got injured. Derrick Henry was averaging his first 8 games. He already rushed for 900 total, 930 something total rushing yards, which is extraordinary. So it kind of. I will say though, it does depend on the player. I mean, you look at the Bills. They won't necessarily. They don't necessarily have. That their running backs quite young, and will have big plays where in one certain play they will rush for 20 yards, but then for the rest of the game they might get the ball another 6 times to rush, but they only mark for 10. In fact, I reckon. And then. You look at the team, some of the teams as well, Buffalo, their best player that rushes the ball is probably their quarterback, Josh Allen. He can run. And same with Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, their quarterback. We won't go into the details, but he's probably their best rusher as well. And it's the same with the New York Giants. Their best rusher is Daniel Jones, the quarterback, because, their top running back is injured at the moment.
Is that because their O-line isn't very good, so he has to run for his life?
Yeah. So now a lot of, and that's probably another thing, in the NFL, the O-line, if your O-line isn't good, you may end up struggling quite badly. The only exception, okay, no, I might need to rephrase that. You might be in a lot of trouble. In exception though, maybe not because he retired after 8 years, which is short. Andrew Luck, for most of his career, he had a bad O-line, but he was still able to produce some pretty good numbers. But other than that, I can't necessarily think, of anybody else. I know Russell Wilson, he isn't necessarily happy with the lack of support that he's getting from his O-line. And, there's rumors that he wants to go to the New York Giants. Now, why would he want to go to a team that probably has a worse offensive line? That makes no sense. And, and then you think of and some of the rookies. Some of the rookies can be affected by it. You just think of Justin Fields. He's only played 4 or 5, actual, games, started 5 games. He's already been sacked the most times out of any quarterback this year. Whereas Mac Jones, from the New England Patriots, you look at him, he's already getting, he gets to, go behind one of the best offensive lines in the game. So it's, it's really it really, so for an NFL team, if they really want to be good, you're going to have a good offensive line so the quarterback can have time, do what he needs to do. And obviously a really good defense, which, Buffalo has. They have the number 1 defense. So do you have any other... Yep. Do you want me to...
I know. I think I've sufficiently derailed your segment enough. I think I'll let you go on to the number 2 ranked defense now.
All right. Thank you for that. The Carolina Panthers, I won't go through every stat. I won't go through every team's defensive. I'll go through I might go through the top teams. Yeah, top 5. Although I'll go through the top 5. The Carolina Panthers, again, maybe, well, probably you could say that they're a bit overrated because when you consider who they had to play early on, they had to play, teams like the Jets, week 1, and while they did play the Texans, although the Texans made it hell for them, and I can't recall who they played after or before the Texans, but Carolina's defense is ranked second. They're only giving up 295.6 yards a game, and conceding only just under 20 points. They do concede a fair few rushing yards a game. They concede 106.8, and that's not good. But they do have, again, like a top 5 passing defense. So they're overall, and their current record at the moment is, just give me one moment and I will tell you, because there's 2 different conferences. Their record at the moment, they're sitting 3rd in their division, and their record is 4-4 at the moment. So it's
so they don't have an offense that's supporting their defense.
Well, say it's interesting because their quarterback, Sam Darnold, he is a turnover machine. Honestly, I don't know how he was able to go up that high. He was averaging two and a half turnovers a game at college, and he went pick 3 with the Jets. Now, obviously, the Jets are a dysfunctional team, and they couldn't make anything work with him. And the first 3 games, he started off well, but since then he's thrown like 6, 7, 8 interceptions. He's just turned the ball over. Mind you, though, he hasn't had Christian McCaffrey to help him out, so could be a difference. Well, he's definitely a difference maker on that team. Now, the third one. Now, this team, I actually do think this team is like really good. They need to sort out their offensive woes at the moment, but their defense, compared to what it was last year, which I can't tell you, I'm not too sure on the stats, but it is significantly better than last year. Their rush defense is like they're easily top 3 from what I'm looking at on the stats. That's the Cleveland Browns. They have.
Is this the same Cleveland Browns that could barely win a game for years?
Yeah. No, sorry, it's not the same. Their biggest issue last year was their secondary. And for those who don't know what the secondary defense is, that includes, your cornerbacks, your strong safeties, your free safeties. I think
So is that
SS
essentially the guys that guard the wide receivers?
Yes, essentially, yes. They fixed that up. They got a Los Angeles Rams, and by the way, I want to mention something about the LA Rams soonish. But this guy was calling last year when he was at the Rams. I can't think of his name at the moment. Something Josh Johnson, I think. I can't tell you, but he was doing the play calling in the defense for LA last year, and the LA defense was like a top 3, top 2 defense overall. So Cleveland, what they had to do, they did. But their record, because they have suffered from injuries. So I won't lie. Injuries. I don't care who. If your team gets significantly hit with injuries from, if your good players do get injured, you're going to suffer. And Cleveland's just been one of those teams at the moment. They are last in their conference, but they've won 4 and lost 4. So
pretty strong.
Last year it was their offense making the plays and their defense that struggled, and this year their offense has struggled a bit. Mind you, though, they do have a character on that team, although they just released him, a few hours ago, Odell Beckham Jr. The Browns released him. So
did they get rid of Odell?
Yep. Apparently a bit of a drama queen behind the scenes. And well, I mean, I don't need to say much more. He was a bit of a pain in the ass at the Giants, but he'll make these ridiculous catches that you don't think he'll make, but then he won't make catches that are thrown straight to him, without anybody around him. So they're a bit hard to gauge at the moment there. The 4th best defense, and look, I'm shocked by this. Honestly, last year again, it was more so their offense that it was pretty much up to them. And that's when, and this is the Cardinals I'm talking about. They went 6-3 at the start, and obviously they faded out. And their defense was pretty ordinary. They're giving up only 17 points a game. Their rushing defense is a bit ordinary. They're giving up 120. But their passing defense, they're giving up just less than 200 yards a game. And their standings at the moment. With the offensive defense playing well, that it's the same with Buffalo. The Buffalo's record's 5-2. The Cardinals' record at the moment 7-1. They had
not bad.
Yep, they have they've just been torching. The offense has been torching the defense, and the defenses have been torching the offense. So, which is good news. And then the fifth best defense. And I know people might say this team's a bit overrated because they keep talking themselves up as a playoff team, but never or haven't produced in a bit. And that's San Francisco. They are the fifth best defense at the moment. They're giving up 24 points a game. Again, their rushing defense is pretty bad, considering that they have Nick. He's not necessarily a run stopper, but Nick Bosa. He gets a lot of the sacks for San Francisco. And mind you, this is a guy in his third year, and he's probably their best defensive lineman on that team. So, and he went pick 2 in the draft. So, it's safe to say that.
Are sacks an actual metric for a good defense, like getting a large amount of sacks? Or is it a bit of an overrated statistical category?
Or I don't know, because you look at Jacksonville when they were called Sacksonville back in 2017. They had 50 sacks as a team, and they literally rode that defense to the AFC Championship, and obviously they lost to the Patriots. So, in some ways, you can look at it and say, yep, they're all good. But then, you look at teams like, the Raiders, they necessarily haven't got, the sacks, but, they're, their record is pretty good at the moment. I think they are the Raiders, they're a top half defense compared to what they were last year. But on this, it doesn't come up. So I can't. I wouldn't know. I honestly, I would, because that is a big play, and that goes that obviously a sack. If the quarterback takes a sack, the team obviously loses yards from that. So you could be 1 from 1. You might have thrown a 10-yard pass, but then you get sacked. Say 6 yards, instead of being 1 from 1 off 10. You're 1 from 1 off 4. Or 1 for 2. I don't think it counts as a missed pass, but you get it there, But their rushing defense is a struggle. Their passing defense, and this is a team that the secondary secondary part of the defense is copped fair share of criticism. Again, they are a pretty good passing defense, and the yards, 324 pass total yards they give up, and while their record at the moment, they are, as I said, they are a bit inconsistent at the moment, but 3-4 at the moment. They've won 3 and lost 4. But, and actually, funnily enough, all their games that they've won away. They haven't won at home yet this season. They've only won 1 home game in the past 2 seasons so far.
Consistency, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely consistency. Look, if it's the case that their defense is playing well, we saw in Jacksonville, they rode their defense. I'll give a couple of good examples, right? The Seahawks. Remember when Russell Wilson came into the league and they had the Legion of Boom, and their defense was literally a top 5, top 3 defense when he came in.
Is that a defense that included what's his name? Sherman?
Yeah, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, and Cam Chancellor. So, and all what Wilson had to do was ensure that he was able to move the ball. And look, they weren't the best offense there. They were maybe just below average. Maybe just a little bit below average or average. But they went to 2 straight Super Bowls with that. Obviously, we don't need to remind anybody what happened in the second Super Bowl. The coach got ahead of himself and wanted it to be all about him.
They passed the ball
on the 1 yard line when they
passed the ball, Lockie. They passed the ball.
Yeah, they passed the ball. And the other one, believe it or not, the Broncos when they beat again. And funny thing about that is when Seattle played Denver in the Super Bowl, and mind you, I think it was that year, Pat Manning, the Broncos quarterback, threw for like 50, he was the MVP, threw 50 touchdowns. And Denver were the favorites. They were the number one offense going up the number one defense. And yet the number one defense outscored the number one offense. It was like 43 to, it'll be, sorry, hang on. I lost my train of thought. It was like 44 to like 12 or something. It was just ridiculous. And then when Denver, and this was Pat Manning's last year, he was literally on his last legs. He was walking around. I think a 50-year-old's probably a bit generous. I reckon he was about 60 the way he was going around hobbling. All we had to do was just ensure that he didn't turn it over. And, they ended up beating Carolina. Again, number one offense with the MVP playing on the other team being Cam Newton. Obviously, there was an incident in that game, which people have criticised him for. So you kind of get my point. For a team to be at least somewhat successful, they need to have an average or really good defense. If you have a below average to like just shocking defense, you're not gonna succeed.
Okay. So remind me, who are the top 5 defensive teams
in the NFL? So Arizona Cardinals at number 4, and number 5 is San Francisco.
Okay, and then so you've got the standings up as well, right?
Yeah. So the standings.
Okay, so what are the teams that are like
below
2 losses? I guess.
So the teams with 1 or 2 losses. You've got the Cowboys. They've got 1 loss. The Rams are another team in the same division with the Cardinals. They've only got 1 loss. The Packers have only got 1 loss. The Buccaneers and Saints have got 2 losses. And in the other conference, obviously the Bills, Raiders, they've only lost 2. Ravens have lost 2. I won't include the Bengals. They've lost 3. And then the Tennessee Titans have lost 2 as well.
Okay, so you don't have to have a top of the line defense, but I imagine most of them are probably top half, yeah?
Yeah, top half. A good example was the Raiders. Their defense is, hang on, I'll count this for you. Actually, I won't count, but actually, no, I will, sorry. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. 13 out of 32. That's not bad for a team that had one of the worst defenses. Well, it's had, some of the worst defensive, stats the last 2 years. That's not bad. And then, just above them, you got the Saints and the Buccaneers. The Packers are just, they're sitting above the Bucs. The Cowboys, they are, what did I say? The 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. Well, they're 18th out of 22. So they're a lowish team. The Rams have gone backwards. Mind you, though, they have a new defensive coordinator. Their old one is now the coach of the LA Chargers. But the one thing I want to say about the Rams now, their defense has got super. Excuse the language here, people. Their defense has got super fucking scary. They just signed, or they traded for Von Miller from the Broncos. And, look, let's just say now that he's on the Rams are essentially just a Madden team. Essentially. Mate, you look at the defensive front for the Rams, plus you've probably got the top corner in the league, Ramsey. That's a scary. I'd be, if I was in that division, if I was Russell Wilson, either Garoppolo
Russell Wilson's injured.
Well, he's coming back. I don't know if it's this week or the next week, but he's coming back in the next couple of weeks. And then you got Kyler Murray. If I saw Aaron Donald and Von Miller coming at me. I don't know what I'd do.
I'd throw the ball and not care if it gets picked.
I don't think I'd even do that. I'd say, look, I'm hurt. I can't play. I wouldn't want to get destroyed by that. It's because, if you don't get sacked, you're going to get picked by Ramsey because, Ramsey will take your top receiver. So that's super scary. I don't know what to say about that. And look, quite frankly, that's just my thing. Well, that's the NFL defense, and and mind you, people, I'm gonna now bring up the English Premier League table. Now, I don't know much of the defensive stats. I just looked up the league table, and I'm just gonna look at the goals conceded. From the top teams. And for all I can see, the top defenses, that have conceded the least goals are literally sitting 1, 2, and 3 at the moment. And obviously, number one's Chelsea. They've conceded only 3 goals from their 10 games. Liverpool, they have the third best, points conceded, if you want to call it, or goals conceded. They've conceded 8, and they've won 6 out of 10. Mind you, they've drawn 4, and Man City have lost 2, but they conceded only 6 goals, and they're sitting third. And then you look at the teams just below them. West Ham. They're sitting fourth. They've conceded 11. Man U, and they're in a bit of strife. Well, I know they're sitting fifth, but when they lost 5-0 to Liverpool, which is just. Although I don't know much about soccer, that is a shellacking. An absolute
2-0
shellacking.
is a shellacking. I'm pretty sure 2-0 is a shellacking. So.
Oh, no. Maybe 3-0 too.
Considering how hard it is to score 1 goal.
Yeah, that's true. Then, there is literally no other teams that have conceded less than 10 goals. No other teams except for those 3. And those 3 are probably, we'll call them the standouts so far in the season because it is early. So, again, another, that's just another example of, how important defense is. And, what about the NBA defenses? Have you got something on that?
Well, hold on a second. Well,
what I want to know is, go again, what I did with the NFL, go through the top 5 defenses and then tell me what their record is at the moment.
Okay, so pretty much the only metric I've got to really go off is defensive rating, because that's it's essentially a metric that summarizes all the defense of stats stuff and puts and ranks teams. So the number 1 defensive rating is the Golden State Warriors with a 97.1.
And what's their standing at the moment?
And they have a 6-1 record.
Jeez, all right.
That would be towards the top of the West.
Yep.
And then the second team is the Miami Heat with a 98.6, and they have a 6-2 record.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the Utah Jazz are in third with a 100.3 defensive rating, and they're 7-1.
Right.
And then you've got the Denver Nuggets in fourth with a 100.6, where they're 4-4.
Jeez.
And then at number 5, you've got the Chicago Bulls with a 101.8.
And what's their?
And they're 6-2.
Okay, so that's the top 5, yeah.
Yeah. And then interestingly, number 6 through 10, you've got the Raptors at 6-3. You've got the Clippers at 3-4. You've got the Nets at 5-3. You've got the Timberwolves at 3-4, and you have the Celtics at 4-5. So there's only 2 of those teams that are actually above 500.
You mean below 500?
No, above. No, above 500 in terms of winning percentage.
Oh, Wait, so you're saying only 2 of those teams have?
So from 6 to 10, only 2 of the teams have a winning record.
Okay, yeah, okay, yep, okay. No, I see where you go. But okay, so, but what did you notice of those top 5 defenses? I mean, obviously, they either had a 500 record or above.
Yeah, the only team that was actually anywhere close to being like below 500 is the Nuggets, and they're exactly 500.
Aren't they supposed to be? Weren't they like really good last season?
Yeah, but they're probably just figuring stuff out again. Like, because they would have had the longest break they've had for a couple years, really, this off season. So, and let's be honest, it's the start of the regular season, and they play 82 games. It's like it's really silly to read anything.
It's really
to the start of the season.
Well, no. I mean, you're not wrong there, but and it probably goes the same with, the other sports that we just mentioned. But do you see a pattern here though? The top defenses so far that we've mentioned out of those 3 sports, NFL, English, soccer, I'm going to call it, and basketball, majority of or a good win rate, at above 500 win rate.
Yeah, the only team that is like, so going with like the American football, the 1 and 2 losses thing, the only team that has 1 or 2 losses that isn't in the top 5 is Philly, and they're 12th, and they're 7 and 2.
Oh, geez. So, all right, yeah, and then look, and then obviously with this, like, the defensive categories, for the NFL, it's kind of like, I'm going to say that not necessarily the same thing, but you got top defense, top defenses total. You got teams like the Denver Broncos who they're only 500, but they got fanned out against some really good teams. The Philadelphia Eagles are literally like a top defense. Like they are a top half defense, and yet their record, right, is 3 and 5 is not too bad. Yeah, that's pretty much. And then obviously, with the AFL defense, literally, I reckon the best defensive team won. Like the team with the best defense across the league literally won the grand final, and that was Melbourne. So, would you say
because they got like the best defenders from a couple teams and signed them?
Hang on it. Yes, that's true, but
they pulled the Denver Broncos and like made a video game defense.
Yes, but this is the other thing with defense. It's all good signing all these players, yeah, and this is the other thing. This is really important, I believe, to succeed. And this is probably going to seem really obvious, but you need chemistry. And it's all good signing all these players, but early on it was pretty clear when as I said, with Melbourne. Early on, their defense, they had no chemistry when they got May and Lever, when they were both on the same team.
They were both injured at different points, so they never actually really played together.
Look, you're not wrong, but when they did play together, it was like, they were conceding a lot of points. They weren't, probably running back hard defensively, but then, you look at them now, they're all, look, and, I have my queries on how the All-Australian team is judged and selected, but they weren't too bad this year at all. I thought, they were really good. They were really good rebounding defenders. I'm not going to, Stephen May's he's a pretty good contested player. Jake Lever, on the other hand, probably isn't. He probably isn't a top defender when it comes to handling contested situations. But it just goes to show, and I don't know if you guys agree, but like in order for a team to have somewhat a successful season, you need to have like a middle of the road defense or a top tier defense. If you're pretty much going to play this rebound slingshot
game, that's not going to succeed. And Kansas City Chiefs have been found out for that now. Now that they have to, stop teams, they can't do it. They can't do it, and their offense is struggling at the moment, and it's showing. And I could even go back to another sport in Essendon. The AFL, Essendon are exactly the same, and they have been for the past, well, probably since the 01 season. Their defense, they keep playing this slingshot football, and it's like, yeah, it looks good, but it's not going to sustain success. You want to have a defense that you can say, right, they're going to, only give up this many points a game. And you can't say that with Essendon. Whereas Richmond, you could pretty much bank 99% of the time that they wouldn't concede scores like over, for example, 95 or 90. They shut you down. Hawthorn may have been the same for a few years, but it just goes to show how important it is. And when you rebuild, what's the one thing coaches look to rebuild if they, if coaches actually have brains, which I assume most of them do. But what's the one thing they go to rebuild first?
They start with defensive effort.
Exactly
that's
right.
Something that you can control more than like offense.
Exactly right. And what was the biggest issue at Carlton this year? Their players' lack of defensive efforts, because their coach was too busy wanting to play the slingshot crap, and ultimately it cost him his job. I'm sorry, but I'm just speaking facts. I mean, yes, look, I'm not a big supporter of Carlton, but like it's they literally have no one else to blame but themselves. And there's a reason why Geelong, well, I mean, you can pretty much say for the last 15 years have been really good, but in that period, from 07 to like 11, they had literally the best defense. They pressure you, and then that's when the guys like Mackie, Harley, Darren Milburn, they'd all, I'm pretty sure Bomber Thompson called it like kamikaze football, and I mean it worked, didn't it? They won 3 flags out of it and got to 4 grand finals and lost the prelim.
Yeah, but let's be honest, that of those players you mentioned, how many of those were absolute football like psychos? Like they'd literally throw themselves at anything.
And again, you bring up a good point, but that's how every defender should be. There are some defenders that look like they don't want contact. And I can think of one player that from where I stand and from what I see, he hates contact. That's Darcy Moore. See, and this is, and before you start baking me, would you say it's fair that they grade how players go defensively based on their rebounding abilities than contested situations?
Yes, because everything they want offense to be like the main thing. That's why they always hype it up so much, because offense is what sells tickets. Let's be honest. Defense doesn't really sell tickets.
And that's the unfortunate thing. I mean, I'd much rather watch a defensive game than an offensive game. I really like, if I had to, coach somebody, I'd tell them it's either defend, if you're not, willing to put yourself on the line, put your body in, play your role defensively, you won't be playing. Because like nobody's talking about how the fact, Harris Andrews had like some of the best like one percenters. Nobody talks about that in the AFL. You might hear, you might hear X, and here's the funny thing. None of these commentators that never played football mention it, but it's always, the ones that, retired, have been retired for a few years. Jimmy Bartell mentions it. Joe Watson, he mentions it the odd time. But
Jonathan Brown does.
John O'Brien does. It's the 1%, and it's quite funny. And you know what? What's interesting about those 3 players? They put their bodies on the line. So no wonder why they mention it.
because they were those guys that would put their body on. Joe Watson for about a decade, easy for easily a decade, was the heart and soul of Essendon. After Lloyd retired, I'd say, well, I mean, I know he retired in 2017, but from then on, I mean, you could even say 2009, it was probably the heart and soul of Essendon because he put his body on the line. This is the thing I don't understand. He'd be getting tagged, but he could still rack up possessions and do really well with them as well. So it's just the hard nitty gritty, that they'll call it shit. The hard shit that they do, the coaches love. Why do you think every coach has, particular favorites? Because they always seem to do the hard nitty gritty shit. Like, I reckon you go ask, I think he still plays it, Matt DeBoer from the Giants. If you ask either of his coaches that have coached him, he'd be a top, the first 5 players that they pick, one of the first 5, because he played his fucking role and he played it well. And this is where I was disappointed when the Bombers delisted Dylan Clark. He had potential as a tagger. And the prime example is when he drove Patrick Cripps mad back in 2019, and he get this, he held him to something like 11 disposals, and that was his second AFL game, and he held supposedly a top midfielder to 11 possessions in his second game. Well, and picked up 23 possessions himself. He was all about the hard, nitty gritty shit. And Sam Durham, I couldn't care if he got 30 possessions a game. I want to see, and I saw it in the games that I watched. He put his body on the line for a 20-year-old kid. He was putting his body on the line, unlike some of these other players. I can't say the same thing about Zach Merritt. He doesn't put his body on the line. You always see him waiting outside the packs, wanting the ball. Sam Durham, no, he doesn't give a shit. He'll go in. Same with Dawson Nickel. He doesn't care. The good example is when he went up for a mark, contested a mark against that. Who was the North Ruckman? Zeri?
Tristan Zeri.
Tom Zeri or somebody like that.
Tristan Zeri.
Sorry. And Tristan Zeri, yes. My bad. And he went back with the fight, took a great mark, and kicked a goal because of that. He put his body on the line for that. I'd rather those type of players than the likes of, I'm going to say it, Darcy Moore, Jake Lever, all those guys. Alira
Intercept King.
I don't rate those intercept kings. Now, Alira is an intercept king, but he's probably the best, well-balanced, tall defender in there because he can spoil, contest, but he can also rebound. He's easily the best, well-balanced defender in the competition. And I don't care. You can convince me otherwise. That's who I believe. Harris Andrews is probably the best. He's the 1% king. Now, I'd rather, as I said, the 1% kings over the fucking intercept shitty kings.
So, like the Harris Andrews.
No, I mean,
like the what's his name, McGovern for West Coast.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And the reason why, and Justin Fletcher in his prime was probably one of the best one-on-one defenders, and that's why, funnily enough, who was Harris Andrews compared to coming out of his draft year? Oh, I wonder. I'll give you a hint. He played 400 games for the Bombers and won 2 flags.
Boomer Harvey.
I have my own opinions of him. Apparently, he's one of the most selfish guys going around. So, and he showed that as an AFL player. So, I'll leave that at that. But yeah, so that, so what do you reckon? Would you agree though that it should, be based off, if you have a good defense, or a top defense, you'll end up doing well throughout the season. Like, would you not agree with that?
Okay, I agree that having a good defense certainly helps a lot, but it's also no coincidence that like good defense will get you regular season wins. Like in the NBA, let's be real. A
Yeah.
good defense can carry you to a top 4 seed in the playoffs, but if you can't put the ball in the hoop in crunch time, it doesn't matter how good you are at defense. You're rarely going to win playoff series against a good offense.
And see, and that's but that also comes down to the teams. All right, look, we still want to be the best defensive team, but we still want to be able to make those shots. Get that touchdown. I mean, as I said, the best example was Jacksonville back in 2017. They literally rode that defense to the playoffs, and they lost to the championship game. And their quarterback, Jacksonville's quarterback, was Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles.
I'm going to assume that he
all
wasn't a
but-
particularly good quarterback.
No, he wasn't. His breakout year, he threw 18 interceptions. So, yeah, I can see the look on your face. You're like, yep, no, he's no good. And to make matters worse, he was taken with pick 3 in the draft. So,
Executive of the
what were
year.
the-
Give that man who drafted him with pick 3 executive of the year right now.
Oh, well, actually, no, I'd probably give that to the bloke who got Johnny Manziel or drafted him. Oh, Money Manziel. All right, but so you would agree that defenses, they will get you and I can necessarily agree with that. I mean, Ross Lyon's a very good example. His game plan suited well for the
Home and away
regular
season.
season. Yeah, home and away season. But come finals time, they just couldn't get the score. But look, in fairness, he came within in total of really, I mean, if you want to include the draw, 12 points of winning 2 grand finals.
Let's be honest, they should have won that. Like that first game that drew, they should have won that.
They should have won that. They probably should have won 09 as well. Because remember, Tom Hawkins' poster in that second quarter, and they counted that as a goal.
Okay.
You have no memory of that, dude.
Yeah, no, I really didn't care about the St Kilda Geelong grand final, let's be honest.
Yeah, okay. So we're all in agreement that having a good defense certainly does help or lead to success.
Sumit, do you think that a good defense leads to success?
Well, I mean, I guess, yeah. Like if you have good defense, preventing the opposition from scoring, putting pressure on them, well, yeah, I guess it does lead to success.
Right. So we're all in agreement to that. People. So let us know what you think about that itself. Whether or not you think defenses certainly.
Okay, ready? I have the question. Here we go. Let us know whether you think that defense does in fact win championships, or is offense the best defense? Alrighty, people. I think you know what time it is. It's time. It's time. And just for old time's sake, it's time. It's time for this week's rendition of LT's useless stat.
Woohoo!
Yes, I love that. I love the introduction to this segment. My birds love it as well. They're looking up in curiosity to know what stat are they going to be stuck with remembering for the rest of their lives. And I tell you what, this one's so bad, I think you're going to tell me to just stop this. All right, so how long would you say a good team era goes, lasts? Just in any sport, 3, 4, 5 years?
I'd probably lean towards
that would
3
be-
more than anything.
3.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Rightio. So I've got something for you. And this is like two stats in one. From the years of 1940 to 1951. Now, I know what you're going to say, this is biased, but here we go. I'm going to then criticize them. The Bombers, the Essendon
You
Football
biased.
Club.
You are so biased.
Hang on. No, because I'm about to roast them soon. they made 10 grand finals out of, if you include the drawn grand final in 1948, that's 10 grand finals. They won 4. You could probably say that they underachieved with the teams that they. Hang
That's
on,
a brutal winning record.
Yep. Hang on though, but I've got a very good reason for this. Now, I've looked at every Essendon Football Club's winning grand final. As you know, I'm a big Essendon fan. I know a lot about their history. And I came across the era that I just mentioned from 1940 to 1951. And, they had some very good, as I said, they won 4 grand finals. They had players like Dick Reynolds, a 3-time Brownlow medalist, Bill Hutchison, a 2-time Brownlow medalist. And, they had John Coleman. They obviously got the leading goal kicker, the award that is named after.
There's a reason it's called the Coleman Medal.
Yep. And I came across their grand final losses. And, obviously 1943, they got beaten by Richmond by less than a kick. And their score line, they kicked more points than goals. They were inaccurate. 1940, and they lost to Richmond as well. And mind you, the year before, they'd literally beaten Richmond in the grand final. So, go figure.
Same thing happened with Sydney and West Coast in 05-06. So.
Yep. 1947, literally, the Bombers led for pretty much all day, but the reserve player for Carlton, with 30 seconds left, kicked the winning goal. And again, Essendon lost the grand final by less than a kick. Now, you'd think they would have learned to have actually kicked the ball between the big sticks, right? Well, 1948, my word, I tell you what. Now, and this is where you can say being cocky doesn't help. They had made a cake that had premiers on it for after the game. They were really confident.
Arrogant.
The victory.
I think that's arrogance, mate. I think that's not confidence, that's arrogance.
That's going a step further.
Yeah. Well, they got very arrogant, and they went up against Melbourne, who, back then it was like a top 4 made finals. I think they finished 4th, and they rode a player. I think they got a player out of retirement, and he was just kicking goals for fun in the finals. And you think that they'd learn to actually kick the ball between the big sticks, right? You'd think. But, and this is where my frustration is let out here. Now, this is the year before I got John Coleman. They drew the grand final, but it wasn't just the fact that they drew it. It was their accuracy that shocks people. They had 34 shots on goal. How many? Just have a guess.
6.
20?
What did you say, someone?
I said 20.
20? What did you say, Liam?
6.
You were both, Liam, you were the closest. They kicked. Now, get ready for this. They kicked 7 goals, 27.
Jesus.
With their full forward. Their full forward kicked 2 goals, 12.
What a man. Give that man a lifetime membership. What a performance.
The interesting thing is about that, Blake, he went from being a leading goal kicker at that club, before Coleman, obviously, to then switching to fullback. So, but it's the fact that, they kicked 7 goals, 27. And then on top of that, they went into the replay grand final really flat and lost. And then, now this was in the Essendon documentary. It's like episode 1, I'm pretty sure. And there was a voice recording. And, although the team may have been arrogant, this player was probably one of the most humble players going around, and probably in history. He went up to Melbourne and congratulated them, saying that, look, we just weren't good enough on the day. You guys thoroughly deserved it. And that was Dick Reynolds that said that to them, as he was, the captain coach, and went into their rooms and congratulated them. So there you have it, the useless stat.
Is that the Bombers sucked ass?
is the
So,
fact.
so did they end up eating that cake, or what? Just chuck it in the trash or something?
Yeah, what happened to the cake? That's what I want to know.
I'd assume that they eaten it. Well, actually, no. It was either the 47 grand final against Carlton that they were hell bent, but they were the most dominant home and away side in 48. And again, they got it was one of the two seasons they got very arrogant, made the cake, and they ended up with the grand final. No, sorry, it was against Carlton. They did that, and they led all day. Only to let the fucking 19th man come on with like 2 minutes to go, and he kicks the winning goal with 30 seconds left. So you can imagine the feeling that those players had, but it's more so the fact that they had 3 grand finals in that decade that they lost by less than a kick due to their inaccuracy. Now, should they have gotten...
Hold on. I just want to clarify something. So the useless stat is the fact that they couldn't kick straight, right?
That and the fact that they probably had the most successful era out of any AFL club. Like dominant, like pure dominance. Yes, I know the grand final records don't show that they did that, but regardless, of the amount of finals that they played in and whatnot.
Well, you have to be in the big dance to win the big dance. Let's be honest.
Yeah, 1 year they lost the prelim, and then I think the other year they may have made the finals but lost the first semi, or they just didn't make it. I couldn't tell you, but I do know that they lost like a final in between. It was 44 and 45. They didn't make the grand finals. And 1940, they didn't. They lost to Melbourne in 41. They beat Richmond in 42. Lost to Richmond in 43. They beat Melbourne by, they beat Melbourne in 46. Lost to Carlton in 47. Lost to Melbourne in 48. Beat Carlton in 49 and beat North Melbourne in 1950. And then lost to Geelong, which they were going for 3 flags in a row. But obviously, then historically, John Coleman decided that he'd had enough of getting scratched and decided to take matters into his own hands and punch the full back. So right in front of the goal umpire who reported. So that probably wasn't a smart idea.
Goal umpire's a snitch.
The goal umpire is a snitch. But it's probably still regarded as the most successful era in history. They still won 4 flags, which isn't bad. So yeah,
better than the Hawks in the 80s. Was it the 80s or 70s?
Well, 80s. In the 80s they won. I think they won 3.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Don't mind me.
So they were one less premierships and probably being more dominant than what we were.
Okay, so that was a really convoluted, useless stat that I still don't entirely know what the useless stat was, but thanks for that, Lockie.
Yeah. I think we just mainly focused on the cake for that one, didn't we, Liam?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know more about the cake than the stat, let's be honest.
Now, from what I recall reading in a book, they ate it, but it was all like a depressed room because they were so confident they were going to win, or they were very arrogant and ended up botting them up the arse essentially because they lost.
Yeah, so, that's tough.
Yes, hang on. I'm just going to move my fan. No, fuck's sake. Moving this fan.
That's a fantastic decision.
Yeah. I agree. Oh shit! I almost fell back. I would have absolutely freaked out there. Then. Hang on. There we go. That's enough. Oh well, my dinner might be cold, but I don't care. I'm not hungry anyway. Oh Jesus, it is so fucking hot. All right.
So I assume the useless stat segment has finished then.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I was going to conclude that, and you guys interrupted me.
We concluded it for you, mate.
Pretty much.
Okay. So pretty much
still
what
don't entirely know what the stat actually was, but
so the Bombers had the best era out of any AFL club, and the fact that they hold probably the worst accuracy in but they hold literally the worst accuracy in I kicked the most points in the AFL Grand Final.
So they had one of the best eras of 11 years, but only won 4 flags.
They fucking sucked.
They made
so they had one of the best eras, so they fucking sucked.
they just couldn't kick straight.
They were too busy buying cakes instead.
Well, no, they were too busy thinking that, yeah, no, we're going to win this. And, well, yeah, look, it did them well, didn't it? But look, that's, yeah. So, yeah, so what else you were telling me the other night that you were watching a bit of tennis. Can you tell us what that was all about?
So everyone, as Lockie was saying at the start of this podcast, I was watching a tennis game last night. One that caught my eye. No, both of these players aren't, massively super stars of the game. It was between Dominic Koepfer and Hubert Hurkacz.
Who?
Now it caught my eye. It's a good game between Hubert Hurkacz. Do you know him?
I've
I've never heard of them before in my life.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not well known, but it was a good game between those two. Now, so basically, you guys know how the point system in tennis works, right?
Something to do with the amount of winning you do equals the. Oh wait, or are you talking? Oh, you're not talking about rankings. You're talking about the 15, 30, 40
and like
stuff.
the game set match.
Okay. I actually do know how that works. I'm gonna shut up and let you talk.
Wait, I got a question about that because I know that so obviously the men's and women's, obviously you need to win a certain amount of sets, obviously, to beat them. Now I know obviously the Australian Open, I'll watch that, and for a men's, if they were to what would you say, clean sweep them, they need to win the thing like three sets to nothing. And women's is
Look, maybe not 3 sets to nothing. It's the total number of sets are 3, and whoever wins the most sets wins the whole match. And to win a set, you need to win a game. And to win a game, you know how you get points like 15, 30, 45, and then once you get up to 60, that means you won one game. And you need to win 6 games to win a set.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the difference between the players, so say you've got 6, right? The difference between you and your opponent has to be 2 sets.
Yeah.
So your opponent has to have a maximum of 4 wins. 4 wins in games. Okay, if it's like 5-5, then you got to go up to 7. You got to win 2 in a row.
But then if it gets to 6-6, they go into a tiebreak.
Yeah,
don't they?
They go. If you just continue until the difference is 2.
Well,
that's how it works in anything that has sets. That's how it works in volleyball and I guess table tennis. But
yeah, exactly.
So
So in the first set of the game that I was talking about between Koepfer and Hurkacz, Koepfer was the winner, 6 games to 4 games, and Hurkacz made a great comeback in the next set, coming back 7-5, and in the last one, Hurkacz completely dominated Koepfer 6-2.
Geez, so that bloke must have.
Yeah, and in the whole game as well, even the stats, Hurkacz had 18 aces, whereas Koepfer only had 3.
Can I just confirm what an ace is? So that's obviously when you serve, and obviously the other player obviously just fails to
hit it back. Yeah, he hits it, but it hits the net or bounces in his court again, or just misses it altogether.
Yeah. I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, so 18 aces for Hubert Hurkacz and 3 aces for Dominic Koepfer. Now, the first serve percentage of Koepfer was better than Hurkacz, 73% and to 64%, but Hurkacz's win percentage on the first serve was much better than Koepfer, 72% to 58%.
And that's and obviously that means so out of their serving, when they've been serving, right, they are the ones that got the point in the end.
Yeah, so the percentage of, out of the total serves that they did, Hurkacz's win percentage was 72% off the first serve.
What do you know the surface they were playing on? Were they playing on, grass or clay or whatever?
Actually, I'm not too sure about
what
that.
What color was it? Hold on, Sumit. What color was
it? It was blue.
And so that was
hard
court.
Blue.
They were playing on hard court.
Yeah. And safe to say, Hurkacz completely dominated the the final two sets and went on to win the match. So yeah.
What was the tournament that they were participating in?
This was in the Paris Masters. Yeah. So tomorrow will be a big one. So you got Djokovic playing as well.
Oh no.
When is he playing? He's playing actually no, it's tonight at 1:20 a.m. He's versing T Fritz. And Herkash, winning in that round 16, goes on to the quarterfinal to face Jay Duckworth. So James Duckworth.
Wow, and that's an Australian.
Yeah.
Sorry,
absolutely.
Herkash. I was
Yeah.
rooting for you until you were playing in Australian.
And now the other two quarterfinals for the Paris Masters. One is between Hugo Gaston and Daniil Medvedev. Yeah.
Oh, he's pretty
Which
high
is-
up in the rankings, isn't he? He's like,
Yeah, he is coming up a bit. That's at 5:30 a.m. If you guys want to stay
Yeah.
up and watch that.
stay up.
At 6:50 a.m. You have the fourth
Well, that's your
quarterfinal,
bedtime.
which is between Casper Ruud and Alexander Zverev.
Geez,
Oh, I
there's a
hate
lot of
that-
big boys playing in this tournament.
Doesn't he have doesn't he have anger issues? Is he German?
Which one?
Alexander. I can't.
Zverev.
Alexander.
Oh, Alexander. He is German. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't he have like anger issues? Like, I know I've seen footage of him like literally like losing it. And
Lockie, let's be
And
honest.
it kinda
Every
turned me
tennis
off
player
in-
has anger issues. I'm pretty sure every tennis player has smashed a
That's
racket.
true.
but not just that, but like he just has that look on him that if something doesn't go his way, he does like a Kyrgios or a Djokovic and just like has to make it all about him and like cry about it. And it's like, yeah, bro, I'm not fans of those guys that when something doesn't go their way. I think you've got to show good sportsmanship, and I know that they shake hands at the end of the game, but it just looks like that. If he had the choice, he probably wouldn't do that. But
So Bernard
that's
Tomic's
just-
your favorite tennis player.
There is a bunch of stuff saying that he has gotten mad at umpires and whatnot for controversial
Oh,
calls.
but look, he's got a long way to go to reach Bernard Tomic's and Nick Kyrgios's level.
That's
I won't even get started on Bernard Tomic.
Bernie.
Yeah, good old Bernie. I
Mhm.
remember when he make like a I don't know if it was it a quarterfinal in the Australian Open, and he
Yeah, back
made,
when
and
he was
playing
good and not
against
the diva.
that's probably a good way to describe him. Wasn't he playing like Federer or something, and he got absolutely destroyed in straight sets? I'm sure that's how it went, because I remember like we like when I say I was with my family and we were driving by like the tennis arena as the match finished, and a lot of people's heads were getting. I'm like, he must have gotten flogged.
He
But,
was actually playing today. I'm not sure. At what time. I'm pretty sure it was in the morning.
Come on, look, he doesn't.
Alexander Zverev. He won that game though. So, but
tell me.
yeah, it was a bit of a up and down one. He won the first set, lost the second one, then came back to win the third one. So
Well, look, let's be honest. Bernard Tomic, he probably just wants the money so he can go buy a Coke or something.
Do you remember
whatever
his
he does.
quote where he was saying something about how he was going to be in like his mansion counting his millions or something?
I
you
think so.
remember
Yeah.
I remember that. Oh, what a fucking joke that was. But like, and then wasn't curious the same. Didn't you say like, tennis is just my job. It's not like my actual passion or something. And that he said like his main like passion was like basketball or something like that. I remember watching the news and like he said that, and I thought, what a dumb thing to say. Now look, I will say he's like changed. I'd say in the last year, like the beef that he has now with Djokovic for not getting the vaccine, I think that's warranted. And what Kyrgios is saying is correct, but I think people will probably more so remember him for the rants that he had, more so than the good stuff that did he actually do anything good other than the old hit between the legs or whatever you call it?
I think he's made a few
Um,
quarterfinals. I think that's as far as he's gotten.
But that's still okay, I suppose, for a guy that is probably also a diva.
Well, for people,
let's
he
be
was
honest.
touted as like a Grand Slam champion in the making. So
Didn't he beat like one of the
he beat
top players?
Nadal in one Aus Open.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty. Wasn't it Wimbledon that he beat Nadal? And and look, I won't lie. My favorite tennis player is Nadal. I love how he goes about it.
Nah, Federer all the way. You don't hear Federer grunting every time he hits a ball.
I'll have to agree.
Yeah,
with you on
well,
that
look, I do like Federer, but I mean, look, honestly, look, I do like Federer. Like, I have nothing bad against him, but I also don't have anything bad to say against Nadal. Although he's more of a guy.
I do have to say that my favorite tennis player at the moment is Ash Barty. No bias at all.
Oh, yeah, no bias.
But both Nadal, Federer are great. Well, I love Djokovic as well. He's a great player, but the thing is, I love his fan base. Whenever you come to Australia, whenever you guys got shout at you guys, it's fun.
Yeah, but he can carry on a bit. I mean,
he's
not
a
as
grade
much
A
as
flog. Let's be honest, he's a grade A flog.
No, absolutely. And I mean, his Australian Open's in jeopardy now that he won't get the vaccine.
Oh, true.
And there's somebody else that won't get it as well. True. And good old Dan the man has said that he won't be allowed in if he doesn't get it. So somebody else other than him.
Did you guys see his picture, his selfie that he took at one of the high schools while the kids are getting vaccines and whatnot?
No. Oh, he was probably thinking to himself, oh, how about these stupid people getting the vaccine? What's that going to do?
The kids,
but no, like, but you know what that means if he can't play in the Australian Open. We actually might have a winner that's not Djokovic.
Wait, what? That's possible?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's true. Or you might be petty and just get vaccinated just to come here and whatnot.
I remember watching. I stayed up all night. I think it was the Australian Open where I don't know if you recall a tennis player. I think his name was Stan Wawrinka or Rinka or something like
Stan
that.
the man.
When he beat Djokovic. Yep. Stan.
Yes.
And,
yes, I do remember that. Yes.
Rinka
or something. Rinko. I don't know.
Yeah, Stan Wawrinka.
Wawrinka
something.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not good.
Wawrinka, that's the one.
Yeah, Wawrinka. Yeah. So, look, I remember staying up watching that. I watched Federer won it a couple of years ago, didn't he? I watched that. I don't recall.
There was a Federer and Nadal final at some point recently as well.
Yeah, and Federer won that.
Completely dominated Djokovic in that one.
Well, no, it didn't, because it went to 5 sets, didn't it? That's not a.
It was just 3 and just.
Wait, did Stan Wawrinka win the 3 sets? I thought it went to 5.
Oh no, who? Yeah.
Oh no, it must have been the one like the year before or the one after that.
Was, where I think this was at the US Open in 2019.
Oh well, no.
We're talking about the Aus Open, Summit. Get your head in the game.
Yeah, we're talking about the Aus Open. I don't get
right.
the
Get your head in the game, Summit. We don't care about all those
Open.
other opens. We only care about the Australian
What
ones.
about the other bloke who used to always crack it? That was that Andy Murray.
Hold on.
That's right. I do remember.
Andy Murray is a great tennis
never used
player.
to exactly. I don't think I've ever seen.
You leave Andy Murray alone, mate.
What do you mean? He used to argue with the umpires all the time. Like back when he was like a top.
Name a tennis player who doesn't argue with the umpire.
Federer.
Okay, other than Federer, and he probably does. Let's be honest, he probably does. We just don't remember because we look at him.
We choose to overlook it because he's Federer.
No, but like he'd go down to like I'm tempted to say, well, not those the atomic level, but like to the point where if something wasn't going his way, he'd like kind of crack it in a way. But Look, but then obviously he changed towards the later part of his career. I know he gave Nick Kyrgios when he was getting a lot of the criticism for how he was acting. He was praising him, saying that, look, he had nothing but good things to say about him. But look, I just think that it's look, I think this is Australian Open will be interesting. To see who will be coming and who won't be coming. Obviously, with the vaccine crap, but yeah. So look, that'll be interesting. I don't know. Like honestly, I don't know. Like, I'm so out of date with tennis. I don't even know if guys like Federer. Like, is he still going around? I don't think he is. Is he?
No, he's still going. He hasn't retired yet.
Oh, well, that's probably a good thing. That probably I feel bad now knowing that I thought he retired. He's not 38, isn't he? Or isn't he?
His body is not doing him any favors. I'm pretty sure.
Well,
I'm pretty
well,
sure.
It's the same with Andy.
I'd say he's the James Anderson of tennis, but
Well, look, let's be honest. I mean, Andy Murray, his body let him down. Didn't Sam Stosur's body let her down a fair bit later in her career? Or when she was, top. And who else? Didn't Leighton Hewitt? He went through a few injuries later in his career, didn't he?
I'm not sure there's a tennis player out there that hasn't gone through injuries.
Especially late in their career. I think everyone, the body just gives up and they're like, okay,
I remember there was obviously you have Serena Williams obviously being like one of the best women tennis players of all time. But then what was her name? She used to like scream and you could just every time she used to
Sharapova.
Crack it. It was fun. No. Victor. I think his name was Victoria Azarenka.
Oh, Azarenka. Okay, yep. Yeah. She was. She dated Redfield at one point.
You remember that? But the crazy thing I find, she could some tantrums, and I'd laugh.
Absolute disgrace. Arina. Oh no, not this. Is this the same one?
Who? Victoria Azarenka.
Oh yeah. This is another one as well. That's true.
I mean, obviously, Sharapova's probably disgraced herself as a tennis player.
It's actually both Sharapova and Azarenka.
Would Sharapova carry on though as much as Azarenka? I feel like Azarenka would just carry on all the time.
I know. Sharapova was like notorious for making noises whenever she hit a tennis ball.
Yeah, and then she got caught with the and apparently I don't think she actually knew about it as well with the substance that she got caught with. Doesn't she have her own lolly? Like, didn't she make her own lolly or something like that?
I have no clue, Lockie. You'll have to look it up.
Yeah, no, I'll have to do that. But people, I will make sure that I find the answer to that for next week's episode. I will make sure that answer, because I'll tell you what, it's gonna. Although you boys might have to remind me about that because I'll probably forget. But yeah, so look, I actually like that. I mean, I like the fact that we're trying to talk about other sports other than just cricket, or we started off talking about overall sports with the defense, and then we gone on to tennis.
I know our overall sports defense talk was kind of still targeted towards like the American footballs, the NBA, the AFL.
Mm-hmm.
You did, but you actually did chuck in soccer. To your credit, you did chuck in the English Premier League.
But no, but to be fair, honestly, you're gonna have to.
It's baby steps. It's baby steps.
You're gonna have to cut this from the episode. I got a message. I won't mention his name, but I got a message from someone asking why our podcast episode had been all about cricket and football, and I'm like, look, I apologise for that. We are just trying to work through. We're just working through some things at the moment.
Okay, you know what? We're going to leave this in because cricket and footy is what we know. Okay, and
yeah,
look, we live in Australia, and cricket and footy are the two major sports here, right? And we will talk about them first because we have heard about them first. We've read about them first. It's the first thing that pops up when you come into Australia and you talk about sports. Cricket and footy are the first things that pop up, right? We'll talk about them first but we're progressing, we're learning. Like we did today, we included tennis. We'll probably dwell on a bit on soccer and whatnot, and in the upcoming episodes. So stay tuned and yeah.
Really quickly about cricket.
I did actually,
Someone?
yes. So first things first, regarding the T20 World Cup, congratulations to India fans for registering their first win.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Who'd you
against
beat?
Afghanistan. I get.
Oh, you beat
It's a win's a win. Yeah, a win's a win. A win's a win. That's good.
Too
No,
bad
that
you
was-
beat Pakistan.
That was
New Zealand.
that was magic fixing.
And Bangladesh showed 73 runs. And
You know what's funny about that? We played them like 2-3 months ago, and we got rolled for less than 100.
You
and
did.
look at his
I
rolls
think in
were
a couple of games as well, and you came back.
Unfortunately,
got
though,
him
with
back
that,
for that's
Finch
good.
and Warner. I mean, I know Finch was striking the ball, but look at the moment, and look, this is probably something I want to touch on with cricket. I can't find the article, but there was grave concerns. I think it was Mike Atherton, a former English captain, said that because of after England, I'm pretty sure a couple of their first choice players are injured because of the IPL, and Mike Atherton much saying that domestic T20 competitions like that is destroying Test cricket because it means that contracted players can't play. And I tend to agree because I mean, when you think about it, selectors now are picking guys that perform well in the shorter format for the long game, which, look, it does have its few odd, where it works sometimes. David Warner, although I do, look, as much as he is a really good cricketer, I will say, though, I do believe he is a flat track bully. I don't think he makes many runs outside of Australia and probably South Africa because, those two pitches, the pitches there are, similar to Australia's.
Mm.
But then, you look at Aaron Finch, he wasn't that good. I know we only got to play in one series, but he didn't do so well. You could probably say Mitch Marsh as well. He probably isn't the best long format game compared to, I think he's a much better shorter format player than.
He is a much better shorter
Top of that
player. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard, but Shane Warne, and I know people have mixed feelings about him, but he was saying that Steve Smith should not be selected in the T20 side, which I tend to agree with this more so because I don't think you should be picking players just based on their names and what they've done in the past. I think you've got to select players based on
what they're doing right now.
And this goes, this doesn't just go for T20, for Test cricket and ODI for the sake of it. I mean, look, and you bought, and I know Lane's probably going to have a chuckle when I mention this name, but the opener for Victoria, since he's played for Victoria, he has been averaging 70 odd runs, and that's now I know a lot of people that will listen to this are going to absolutely laugh. But Nick Maddinson scored another Sheffield Shield century.
He was the best bowler for the Stars last
impressive.
season too. Don't forget that.
Very impressive. And not only did he score, a century, his strike rate was good as well. It wasn't too slow. 62. A strike rate of 62. That's pretty good.
That's respectful. See, I respect players that they know when they need to go in Test cricket, but the guys that just constantly look to attack. I mean, like David Warner and Rishabh Pant. Sometimes they look like they're A-grade players, but then they'll get here playing some stupid shots. Matthew Wade has been caught doing that.
They will, exactly. I do remember, and a prime example of this is, when India came to Australia, Rishabh Pant was on 97, look set, look good, and then plays a terrible shot, and gets caught at a gully or something off Nathan Lyon.
You could probably say Jason Roy from England, Moeen Ali, or actually Moeen. This, I do apologise to Moeen Ali. That was really harsh. He has had some success. It's just it's unfortunate that it will be now known as Nathan Gazza Lyons Bunny. But look, I just think if they were fair income, they will not pick Marcus Harris in the test because Pukowski isn't playing in the Shield at the moment, which means he'll probably miss the first test. But
he will. It's bad.
But,
his concussions. Yeah.
But they need to pick players based on form, and if obviously they'll select David Warner because David Warner and he's got a good career average, but I mean they got to start picking players based on form. I mean, Nick Maddinson is a top opener in Australia at the moment. He is. You look at his Shield record, which is how they should be grading a test player. He has starred in 90% of his games for Victoria. And if you don't look, doesn't Kawaja bat at number 3?
He does, yeah.
But he's had a successful opening stint in Test cricket as well. And Mitchell Starc, his Test career bowling average has gone backwards. Other than that series against Pakistan and New Zealand, he has been woeful. I mean, the fact that he wasn't even a first choice player in the Ashes when he came back fit in 2019 should tell you how much he was declining. That they prefer to pick. I mean, look, Peter Siddle was a really good, line length bowler, and Pattinson was probably the Mitch Starc, but unfortunately, just his body couldn't stay with it. But it's just really, really unfortunate that Mitch Starc just can't get it right, and maybe it is time to unleash Michael Nessa. I don't care, and this goes for any sport. If your starting player isn't performing, and you've got guys that are just tearing it up in training sessions, I know the second leagues and whatnot, and they're playing the second leagues and they're dominating, you've got to give them a chance. Otherwise, you don't know what they're made of. You might give them, say, 5 minutes. In this case, you might give a defensive guy in the NFL, five snaps. But what's he going to learn from that compared to playing, for example, a half or in NBA? What's a good example with where I'm going, Len? What would be a good example for that? Giving a player an opportunity to play how many minutes a day?
I don't know. Probably 20 minutes is like your solid amount of minutes in an NBA game.
Yeah, but obviously, they need that. They need to play those minutes, for a certain amount of games.
But you can't do that in cricket. Cricket, you pick 11 guys, and those are the 11 guys you're stuck with for 5 days.
Yeah, look, I know what you're saying, but obviously, with Test cricket, you might give them, maybe to the second, third game of the series, and if it's not working, then why stick with it? I mean, I don't know how many times, and I've said this a few times in this podcast. David Warner, outside of Australia, is a liability. Outside of South Africa, as I said, you look at his record in other countries, it is shocking.
So who would you rather have as an opener?
At the moment,
maybe bring him back.
Kawaja and Maddinson, because they are literally batting at the top in their respective, states.
Is this even if Bukowski's fit?
Yes, because Bukowski, I'd want to give Bukowski a game or two to settle in, rather than just coming in and playing an Ashes test straight away. I think that'd be a bit unfair on him.
True.
He'd have to,
look,
work.
His debut against India was impressive, but his head's riddled with concussions, so you'd have to take that into consideration.
The other, but would you like to say that guys that you shouldn't have everybody I sent the in our group chat, I sent the message where someone said that apparently T20 was brought in for players that aren't like Test cricketers or don't play Test.
Exactly, I have it open actually right now, and a similar comment was like, if players prefer all these T20 leagues around the world, then they should only be contracted to play them, as that is obviously their preference, and give others a chance to take ODI and Test spots,
But
I fully agree with that.
But the problem is 2020 is where all the money is. So
exactly,
are you gonna deny like the Test and one day superstars 2020 money just because they're good at Test and one dayers?
Not really, but like, it's so, like, yeah, not really. But the thing is, like, if, if like they shouldn't have put that much money into T20s in the first place. Like, if you come
Exactly
to think
right.
of it, how long, when did they start the T20 World Cup and when did they start the World Test Championship? Think
Yeah.
about that.
And I said that they brought in the Test Championship, the World Test Championship, to somehow save and revive Test cricket.
Yeah.
And it should not have at that point. It should be, an Ashes series. It is the most iconic. I don't care what anybody says in any sport. That is the most. It has the most rich history in any sporting rivalry. I don't care what.
I don't know.
It's the longest sporting rivalry in fucking sporting history, sports history. This is all sports. Overall,
Yeah,
That's true. That's true. But Liam, what would you say is akin to that or more?
Well, because you've got
Yeah.
like the Lakers and the Celtics have been rivals for decades in basketball, and then you've got like Argentina and Brazil in soccer.
yeah. Look, I get where you come from, but like in terms of like, if we're talking just pure history, the Ashes, it just beats. Like I won't say what, but
I'd have to agree with Lockie there. The Ashes have been going around for about a century, right?
yeah, because Test cricket is. I mean, look, essentially, Test cricket is dying. That's it. Test cricket is dying, and and what they're going to leave 160, 70 plus year history just evaporate.
Well, it's because the big teams only want to play the big teams. Let's be honest. Like,
no, they weren't.
yes, they do. Australia still haven't played Afghanistan in a test match. We only ever played Bangladesh in Bangladesh, and the only teams we play in Australia are like India, England, New Zealand, and Pakistan.
That's true. Yeah, like not even South Africa. South Africa hasn't come to Australia in a while. Like it's been
like we go to South Africa, and then I think
but to be fair though, by the way though, with the Afghanistan test, we were scheduled to play them, but I mean we won't go into details of what's happening because it might upset a few people, but that had to get cancelled. So
that's true. And I'd actually like to talk about what happened with England and New Zealand pulling out of Afghanistan. Like, no offense to any New Zealanders here, but I do believe what they did was a bit wrong. It was like they had a threat, accusation or something popped up about a threat, and this was like 30 minutes before the game. Like, no, sorry, a couple of hours before the game, and then 30 minutes before the game they cancelled it, and the whole team, they're like, yeah, we can't do this tour because of one threat, and and because of that England also pulled out. And then it turned out it was just a baseless accusation. There was nothing behind it. There was nothing there. Cricket Afghanistan had been doing, like, preparing it for a while. Wait, no, sorry, was it Afghanistan or was it Pakistan?
I'm pretty sure it was Pakistan, actually.
Yeah, Pakistan.
It was Pakistan, yeah. But yeah, same thing applies. Like it's wrong that they had been, there was tight security. They had been put a lot of money into it, selling tickets, organizing the venues, doing stuff, and it's all just gone in a matter of an hour and a half.
Yeah, and then you look at what happened in the last test that was supposed to be the decider in the England-India series. That and it is alleged that they knew that was like a site that they couldn't go to, whether because it was exposed and it was in the open. They went to it, and the test had to get called off. But it's like, really?
And it's been called off not like a few days later, like till next year, like when India go back to England, and that's a big.
This brings back to my first point, because the interesting thing is what relates is that the Indian players, that they're contracted to the IPL wouldn't have had enough time to play. So it just and you got guys like Virat Kohli who's on big money there. Rishabh Pant, whoever else. I don't mean to offend any Indians because I don't know many of the players other than they're big guys, but like that to me, that's just really like, that looks a bit, sketchy there. That looks like really.
That's true, but like when you think about it as well, you got guys like Rishabh Pant and Virat Kohli in the teams. They're not going to let them go. Just they're not going to stop when they come back. So
no,
it's like
no, they wouldn't have. No, they wouldn't have though, because whatever protocols.
Oh yeah, no. Obviously,
COVID,
like after that, when they're all good to go, they'd obviously let them play the first game that they're available for. So.
But
yeah, I don't think they'd be too bothered by that. But yeah.
I don't know. I mean, as you said, as Liam said, T20's got the most money and whatnot, and for a guy like as good as Virat Kohli and Rishabh Pant, and a few no-name players that maybe in the Indian squad that had IPL contracts, had good cash, that may have been able to, that they would have benefited from that, rather than playing a 5-day test match and waiting for 2 weeks to then play, or 2-3 weeks to play in the IPL when the competition didn't it finish up like a month or so after like when that last test match was supposed to be played.
Yeah.
And it was because they did a rough estimate of when the Indian players would have gotten back. Like, didn't the competition, when did the IPL finish up? Was it last month?
Last month, I think. The month before, like end of September, was it, or something?
Yeah, it might have been the end of September. But like, you get my point. Like, I just think, like, I mean, what do you think? Like, do you think, and I know we spoke about this in an earlier episode, but do you think the money in T20 cricket, it's literally like hurting Test cricket? Would you agree with that?
I kind of agree with that.
No doubt. There is no doubt it is hurting Test cricket. But you also can't begrudge players for going after money.
I mean, yeah, that's true. That is how they make a living.
Like literally every other profession on the planet, you would literally laugh at someone and call them stupid for turning down a job that offers more money in less time.
Well, yeah, look, probably in hindsight, but then, when you think about it, as a, from how it looks like, well, geez, maybe, but then what it looks like is, if they do that, I usually only just playing it for the money rather than playing it because they love the game. That's where I get really annoyed with some of these players that just, they sign a contract that they know they're not worth, or, that they, where they sign, and, all they want to do is just prepare for that rather than, playing for their team or playing for their country. And it's like, yeah, look, if you're going to do that and, pass up the opportunity to, one, represent your country in probably the oldest format of the game, and, where you make a name for yourself, I couldn't give a, like, if you were to tell me who the first or the best T20 player was when it first came out, I couldn't tell you. No, I mean, neither could I with Test cricket, but like, I kind of have more respect for guys that play the game because they love it rather than the money-hungry players, if that makes sense.
That's fair. I like. That's true. That's true. I'd rather a player, just play tests and then, play in one of these big tournaments rather than play.
So Pujara is your favorite player then?
I love
he didn't play. He didn't necessarily play in the IPL, did he? I don't think he played.
He doesn't play. He doesn't play 2020 in 1 days. He only plays tests.
He plays it. Love him. But then I also still have respect for guys that play 1 day and T20, not T20, test, because ODI does have a history. They've been playing that for 50, 60 years or something like that. So
with T20, it's basically just smash, smash, smash. With ODI, you can put in a bit of strategy, you can put in tactics and whatnot in it. It is kind of long. Each innings goes for 3.5 hours or so. So
whereas T20, it's just like just smash as many runs as you can, whether you get bowled out for 40 or 200. We just couldn't care less. Just do your job. You don't. Well, yeah. Look, there are strategies, but you'd say that you have to be more. You have to be better tactically in Test cricket. That's easily the most tactical format, in the game. You have to be at your smart, and you have to be at your smartest in Test cricket. You have to be tough mentally to play Test cricket. Because why is it called Test cricket? It tests you physically and mentally. And I'm not going to go into the script that I wrote up, a month ago when we spoke about this. But I just think, when I saw that, it pretty much just sums up my feeling. And, a lot of people do agree. Well, look, I don't mind watching the T20. Look, I'll sit there and watch it. I won't have any issues watching it. But my passion for cricket lies within the T20. But
you mean test?
Yeah,
You mean the test?
Yeah, but sorry.
The problem is that that's what you think. 80% of people that like cricket could agree with you. 80% could not. But the whole pushing what you think is good on everyone else is the problem.
Yeah. No, look, people, I know a few people that don't like Test cricket, but they'll sit there and watch T20. It's like, I'll complain and say, well, then you don't really like cricket then, because that's just, pretty much you're playing in a big backyard, and the only thing that's not in the rules is, the one hand, one catch and tippity. That's literally the only two. It is essentially pretty much big yard bash, but you're playing on an oval. Or backyard bash. But look, it's it's just that look, as I said, I'll sit there and watch T23. I love the team I support. The Melbourne Stars, although they can tend to drive me insane. You guys have had to put up with so many not hate messages, but critical messages. In particular, some of the
we have also sent critical messages to the team in your defense, so it's good. But...
Yeah. Did you see that Adam Zampa has like the second best figures by an Australian in 2020 after the
I saw that. Took a 5 for in the
guess what? I couldn't care less. T20. I couldn't care less.
That's fair. I actually wanted to talk about this one player. He's from Sri Lanka. His name is Charith Aslanka. Now, I reckon he can be a really good player. I'm not for Test, maybe in limited formats for T20 and ODIs. In the future, he saved Sri Lanka against Bangladesh. Almost took them over the line for the win, and he got Sri Lanka off to a great start, and almost 100-run partnership with Nisanka versus West Indies. So I reckon he's an up and coming player.
Is this for Sri Lanka?
This is for Sri Lanka, yes.
Well, there you go. We have a up and coming. Yeah, but look, I mean, people will. And look, I'm not going to say that there's not. I mean, look, we have. Australia have a couple of talented young, players up and coming. You just think of Josh Inglis, who I remember when people were like, and this goes back to what I was saying before, how you've got to pick players based on form. And people were so shocked that he was included in the T20 World Cup squad. And
why were you surprised? He's a good player. He's been playing good. He's
been playing good in the format, so he should be based on form. And look, teams don't look probably back when years ago. That's how teams probably used to select their teams, but nowadays it's just like, well, if you're a well-known player, you're safe, and that's not how it should. That is not how a team should be run. But I can go into, and I'm going to go into AFL here. Luke Beveridge keeps all his players on edge. What happened?
But yeah, look, that was a very long discussion about cricket and how T20 is disrupting Test cricket and its popularity and its So that was that for my cricket segment, and I reckon that's it for this podcast as well.
Yeah.
So
let us know. The one thing that we want to know is how you thought this episode went like I know we talked about cricket, and we had been getting feedback saying that we need to kind of talk about other sports because our name is All Sports, and we should be talking about all sports. But let us know how you thought this episode went. Like, were you satisfied that we were able to like talk about other sports? Would you say, or like talk about different things within like sports? Obviously, we had the defensive talk. We had a pretty good tennis talk. I that was probably one thing I didn't expect to go for too long, but it did. And obviously this little segment probably went for a good 10, 15, 20 minutes, and my useless stat I probably harped on that for a bit, but yeah, look, I just want to know how all you guys felt.
One could say your useless stat went as long as that S in the Dynasty did.
Oh, that
Mind you, I'm going to have to start looking up other stats from other sports. So I can.
Non-AFL and non-Essendon centric, huh?
Well, hang on a minute. That was what my.
Yeah, I know. I was joking. I'm joking. Settle down, okay? I kid.
No. See, now I'm going to rant. Oh, you know what?
No, boys.
No,
this
Lucky
is
kid,
all in
continue
good
wrapping
fun.
up.
This is all in good fun, and that I reckon we'll be wrapping up for this episode. Thank you for listening, those of you who made it to the end of this very, very long and tiresome episode. For the long discussions and rant. And as I said in the at the beginning of the podcast, please subscribe to the socials. For Instagram, it is All Sports 2021, and for Facebook, it is All Sports Podcast.
And next week we've got a big announcement coming up.
Oh, okay.
Next week we've got a big announcement.
All righty. So this is your three co-hosts, Sumit Kadav,
Lachlan Turner,
and Liam McDonald.
We are signing off.
Thank you for listening. Please share this around. We would really appreciate it. And, well, goodbye.
Good night, Seattle.
Next
And go
week.
fuck yourself.